ruined my cousin and ex's wedding, and it's brought me a lot of happiness. Plus updates. Original post. I once looked up to my cousin. I thought he was a great guy, and we were close like brothers. I was also dating a girl. I was deeply in love with her, and planned to marry her someday. I thought my life was perfect. One day I came home early because a colleague offered to cover my shift. I was pretty tired, so I accepted and went home. Arriving home, I found them in my bed, getting it on. Both of them were shocked to say the least. I told them I wanted them to be gone by the time I got back, and left the house. They were gone by the time I did get back, but she left me a note telling me she was sorry, and to call her when I'd calmed down. I didn't call her. I texted her saying that I'd gather her things and drop them off at cousin's in a few days, and that she's staying with him now, not me. I followed through with that. It took about a week to transfer everything. Both of them tried to apologize, but I didn't have anything nice to say to them, so I said nothing. I just knocked the door and handed the bags to whoever answered before leaving. My cousin called me multiple times to try to apologize, but I refused to accept it. 3 years have passed since then. I went no contact with them. I didn't bring it up to the rest of my family or any of their friends. I'm not sure why, I just didn't. Then I got a call from a number I didn't recognize, so I answered. It was my cousin. He sounded really happy and was acting like he hadn't destroyed my life. He explained he and my ex were getting married, and he wanted me to be his best man. I was so angry that he had the utter gall to act like nothing was wrong, and lost my temper. I yelled at him and called him names before hanging up. He sent me a text telling me the offer still stood, and if I didn't want to be his best man, then he just simply would not have won. A few days passed by and I had an idea. I texted him back and apologized. I sent a paragraph of BS saying I was still angry, but this could be an opportunity for the three of us to heal and move past it. He was overjoyed and said he'd pay for everything, and he'd help me pick out a suit if I wanted, which I accepted because I sure as heck wasn't going to spend any money on his stupid wedding if I could help it. The wedding day came. I had spent the week prior writing a speech, putting all the negative feelings that had bottled up over the years into words. The wedding was pretty good. I'm sure one of them has some nice well-paying job or something, because they must have spent a decent bit of money on this wedding from how nice it was. Our entire family was there, as was a decent chunk of my ex's family. Eventually the time for my speech came. I just remember feeling really nervous as it built up to it, and my voice kept faltering when I was reading it out, but I didn't and still don't care. At least I got it out. I explained what these two horrible people had done to me. I called them the worst names I could think of, and wished them the worst. Then I left. I was expecting some kind of dramatic moment from all the guests, gasps of shock and all that, but there was none of that. Everyone was silent. On my way home, I got a call from my mother angrily telling me that I'd ruined the wedding, and both of them were so upset, and she asked me why I would do this. I told her that they deserved it for what they'd done to me, and everything I said in this speech was true. She kept defending them, so I swore at her and hung up. Since then, I've gotten several calls and texts from others in mine and my ex's family, angry that I ruined the wedding. I've also received a few texts from people who were there being supportive and telling me they were there if I needed to talk. I'm not sure if I feel better having done this, but it did bring me great catharsis when people were telling me the wedding was ruined. At least now they've felt at the very least a fraction of what they've made me feel. Just a little edit to address some common questions. As far as I'm aware, the rest of the family wasn't aware of her cheating on me. They likely knew we were dating at some point, then we weren't. I've learned from previous incidents that I can't rely on my family for any kind of support, so I've been on low contact with them since I moved out of my parents' house, which is why I didn't mention this to anyone in my family. A lot of people are also asking for the speech transcript. I wrote it in a Google Doc and read it out from my phone. The delivery was kinda lackluster. I sounded like I was going to cry and tripped over my words, but I managed to read it all out. It isn't verbatim what I said, but it's very close as I was reading from this as a general script. Hello everyone. I'm not very good at public speaking, so apologies in advance. It's an honor to be at this wedding, and an even greater honor to be the best man. I was shocked that I was even invited at all, since the last time I'd spoken to the bride and groom was when I'd found them doing it in my own bed. Ex was my partner at the time, you see, but I don't think she got the memo that when you're dating someone, you don't sleep with their cousin in your partner's own bed. And it wasn't like cousin didn't know we were dating either. Who knows how long this slimy douche was screwing her behind my back. Weeks, months. For those unaware, ex and I had been dating for 2 years. I loved her with all my heart, and was actually saving up to get a proposal ring. Maybe if ex wasn't such a loose woman, cousin would be giving this speech instead, and I wouldn't have been struggling with mental health for 3 years. Anyway, I've heard 50% of marriages end in divorce, and I hope yours is a messy one. From the bottom of my heart, screw you both. You ruined my life, and I will never forgive either of you. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Lol, that's savage. Honestly, what did they expect you to do? Except the fact that he stabbed that knife in your back, and basically causes you so much anguish and hurt. I'm amazed they were stupid enough to invite you. Not just invite him, ask him to be best man. Like when I read the title and started reading, I thought the cousin was marrying some other girl, not OP's ex. I'm happy you ruined their wedding, lol. I got mad reading this. I'm almost impressed at the gall they have to do something so unbelievably awful, evil and callous. Like they didn't even give a crap. They wanted to rub his face in it, gloat about it, and show it off. Normally I wouldn't condone this type of petty revenge, but in this case, I am 100% for it. Screw them, and while you're at it, screw all the family members who are defending them. Go no contact with every single one of them, if not for the fact that they are defending your horrible cousin and your ex. Go no contact with them for the fact that they saw you were with your ex, saw that you suddenly weren't with her, and then couldn't be bothered to ask for details, and at least check up on you to see how you're doing. That literally takes only a few minutes, very simple text message or anything. If they had done that at least, then they would have known what she did to you. But they couldn't even bother to do that, because they didn't care enough. Screw them all. It's the fact that your cousin had the audacity to ask you to be the best man at his wedding with your ex that cheated on you with him. He's a complete idiot, if nothing else. You don't go from not speaking to each other for years after a conflict or betrayal to asking the person you hurt to be the best man at your wedding. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. They deserve what they got for hurting you, and then inviting you to their wedding to hurt you even more. The only way this gets worse is if they asked him to be the marriage officiant or something. Be prepared to turn them down when they ask you to be the godfather to their kid or some crap, lol. You sir deserve a drink. Hats off to you. I made sure to help myself to as many drinks as I could before we sat down for the speech. I think the alcohol gave me enough courage to do that in front of my entire family and hers. Now for the first update. Hey, it's been a while, and a lot has happened. I haven't logged into this account other than to look at any messages I've gotten whenever I see the notification in my email. It has helped, and it's good to know that people still think about me all this time later after reading words on a screen. Heck, the most recent private message I got was 4 hours ago as of typing this, and the most recent notification on my post was 10 minutes ago. I haven't responded to any because I don't really know how to begin doing so. I'd feel bad just giving a short thank you, and I'm not really creative enough to come up with over 20 good responses. I do greatly appreciate the supportive words though. Some stuff has happened since the whole mess that was my cousin's wedding. My mom tried to talk to me, said she saw the post I had made. I pushed her away for a few days before finally speaking to her. I'm struggling to find words to describe how things worked out between us. The easiest way to explain it is that we agreed to disagree on whether what I'd done was correct. I got a mix of messages from those who were present at the wedding, some supportive, while some telling me off. I was struggling a lot. I've just gone back to simply functioning like I was before the wedding, after I came down from getting my own back. I don't at all regret what I did, and I still feel satisfied that I got payback. I was making plans to take my own life about a month after the wedding. I hadn't told anyone for obvious reasons, but my mom, uncle, and cousin, same cousin whose wedding I ruined, came to me and told me they'd pay for a private counselor, since the mental health department of the NHS is under-equipped to say the least. I went to therapy, found a counselor who was very helpful, and he taught me a lot. I got diagnosed with PTSD, caused by the discovery of the affair. He's been a big help and has encouraged me to give casual dating a try, to build confidence in myself and get used to rejection as a normal part of life. I signed up to a few dating sites, although I'm avoiding Tinder like the plague. My counselor specifically suggested I stay as far away from Tinder as I possibly can. I've not been very successful in that avenue, but it's pretty much in line with what I was expecting. I've talked to a few people and even got a date scheduled, but she stood me up and ghosted me, which hurt. I'm doing good though, much better. I don't have self-harming thoughts very often anymore. Whenever I'm feeling especially crap, I like to open up this post and read your supportive messages. That's all for now. I'll probably start using this account on a more regular basis so you may see more of me. I'm sorry for everything you're going through. I hope you know that you deserve to be loved, cared for, respected as a person, and that their actions are not a reflection of you as a person. P.S. And it's okay if you don't want to have a relationship with your cousin and your family members. Most stories on here that are related to OP ruining a wedding all have the same reaction from guests. Some support them and others don't. Which is normal, but I feel as if your mother should have been way more supportive of her own child. I always hate reading stories like this. I'm sorry you had to go through such an ordeal. Makes me sick just thinking about if I ever went through something like that myself. You're incredibly strong for being able to keep it pushing for this long. Stay safe, man. So glad you're doing better. One day you will get to the point where when you think about this it will no longer hurt. I had to battle some demons after my ex and his countless infidelities. It takes time, but now when I think back on my ex, it's more of a sigh of relief that I didn't end up with him. God, that would have sucked. After a few first dates with a handful of guys, I stumbled upon someone when I wasn't even looking, and it all made sense. Yeah, it was miserable being heartbroken, but I finally found the reason none of the other guys worked out. I know you will find that one day when you least expect it and sending all the good karma your way. You will have to battle some demons, but it's good you have already started the adventure. I wish you the best of luck, and God, I love that you got to give that amazing speech to them to begin the actual healing process. Some of us don't get to have that kind of moment, and so glad you got that mic drop moment. If I was there, I'd be like, oh snap, that was epic. Kudos. Now for the last update. Hey friends, I'm still getting DMs asking for updates and the like, and honestly, I'm still baffled people care enough to ask. I do read your DMs. I've not responded to any because it's a little overwhelming. I've had over 70 people DM me now, all but 2 of whom were sending me messages of love and support. I really appreciate it, and I'm sorry for not responding. Like I said, it's just overwhelming. I might go through and respond someday. For now, I just open up my account and read the messages whenever I'm feeling down or generally just struggling to think positively. It really helps. Anyway, onto the update. Not a lot to update really. Not had much luck with the dating, so I gave up. I finally went on a date with 2 separate girls, but neither of them were my type, so I didn't arrange for a second date with either. The first constantly talked about her ex and how much of an a-hole he was. Obviously, I can relate pretty hard, but it just gave me the impression that she hadn't moved on from him. After we'd finished our date, I walked her home and she offered for me to come inside and watch a movie with her. I declined and lied, saying I needed to go home and feed my cat. I don't have a cat right now, and she seemed to buy it. I felt bad for turning her down, and I hope she finds someone who will treat her well. She seemed like a sweet girl, but she's just hung up on a toxic ex. The second girl was just painfully boring. She constantly talked about Love Island, I'm a celeb, and a few other shows I can't remember the name of. I faked an emergency just to get out of it, because 5 minutes with this woman felt like several decades. Other than that, no bites, and that's fine. My counselor said that if using those sites feels like a chore, then I should stop using them, and it felt like a chore, so I stopped. There's been quite a few common questions in my DMs, so I'll respond to them here. Question: how are you holding up? I'm doing great, all things considered. I have dark thoughts from time to time, but I've no intention to act on them. My counselor is a massive help. He's taught me a lot of coping mechanisms, and has helped boost my confidence from non-existent to probably a bit above average. Question: have you spoken with your ex at all since the wedding? Only when I've been to my cousin's house to visit with my mom, which is infrequent. I don't speak to either of them much. My mom just insists I visit him since he's paying for my therapy. I think she's trying to somehow repair our relationship, but once I'm well enough to not need therapy anymore, I'm going to go no contact with all of them and move to a different city. Question: continued from the previous question. If you do speak to your ex and or cousin, what do they say? Anything that isn't related to the wedding or doing each other in my bed. They do everything in their power to avoid talking about anything even tangentially related to those things. If you have additional questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. I'll try to answer them if I see them. I hope OP is able to successfully heal, but I don't think having his cousin and ex back in his life this soon is the healthiest option. My guess is that the cousin will cut paying the therapy if he doesn't visit them. With a deal like that, he'll be in therapy forever. OP's mom still is in the dark. For Pete's sake, OP doesn't need to talk to cousin. Cousin messed up the relationship by sleeping with OP's girlfriend. Like seriously, the cousin paying for therapy is the least he could do for having doing that with the ex in OP's bed. OP doesn't need to speak with cousin after dealing with that, and basically being guilted into being the best man so they could look good. I wonder if the therapist knows about this arrangement. I wonder if the cousin fed the therapist a BS story before paying her, so that the therapy results in a favorable outcome for himself. Question: have you spoken with your ex at all since the wedding? Only when I've been to my cousin's house to visit with my mom, which is infrequent. I don't speak to either of them much. My mom just insists I visit him since he's paying for my therapy. I think she's trying to somehow repair our relationship. But once I'm well enough to not need therapy anymore, I'm going to go no contact with all of them and move to a different city. See, that's exactly why OP should get therapy elsewhere, and anyone else but from cousin paying, since his own mother is already using that info to force a relationship when there shouldn't be a relationship, nor conversation since the ex cheated on OP with the cousin. That is some insidious manipulation his own mother doing, and OP wouldn't be wrong to cut her out much sooner rather than later. I agree, but therapy is hella expensive. When I was going regularly a few years back, it was $50 a session with insurance, and I had to go once a week. The medication and gas money to and from appointments was an additional expense. I didn't have a lot of options for therapists, as I had to get someone who could do late sessions. Being a teacher, I couldn't take off work for weekly sessions, so trying to find someone who can do 5 p.m. or later appointments was tough. I could barely afford all this, but it was that or follow through with offing myself. I hope I don't get to that place anytime soon because I wouldn't be able to afford that now. So for the OP, he may not have a choice financially, except to have his cousin pay for it until he works through everything.